Do you dream about going to Disneyland for your birthday? Do you identify with one or all of the characters, maybe even princesses, in a Disney movie? Then dressing up in clothes that are themed after your favorite character is a great idea. But what if all the options you found online, they didn't quite fit your vision and you happen to be a little crafty? I say you try and make it yourself. Welcome back. Today, I'm going to be working on my amazing idea for a outfit to wear to Disneyland for my birthday. I also wanted to go over an example of how I suggest you use a one-pager similar to this one. So if you're kind of following along with me, what you're going to need is a pattern. This one is a McCall's M894. And then you're also going to need to do some body measurements to figure out which size you are. You're going to want to do that before you buy it because they come in particular sizes. You want to make sure you buy the pattern that is in the size range for you. And while these may seem like dress sizes, they are not. So you're going to want to make sure that you do measure yourself and figure out which of these sizes you are. Otherwise, the patterns generally say a list of things that they suggest you get in addition to fabric. So I did that. I got my buttons, some elastic, some bias tape. I couldn't find any in this exact purple color, so instead I decided to go with the green that will kind of offset the character that I'm looking to recreate here. And then the pattern I'd like to try to make is this bee design. And that told me, how much of the fabric I really wanted to buy. So I just rounded up and got 2 yards of this fabric, so I have a little extra in case I mess up. But you really should only need between, 1 yard to maybe 1 yard and 7/8. So with that, if you're interested in following along, I'm excited to see how this journey goes. Grab yourself a hot cup of motivation. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get started. Okay, so the first step is to measure your body. And we're going to check this area below to figure out how my body measurements align with the pattern, and that'll tell me which pattern to cut out of the choices here. So we're going to go ahead and get that done. All right. So since today I will be making a bodice, this pattern suggests that I measure my bust and my waist and my hip along with a back waist length. So first we're going to go for the bust, which is labeled as circumference bust. Take our handy dandy measuring tape. You can measure in either inches or centimeter. Most patterns have both measurements defined. And what you're going to want to do is, if you are a lady, or if you are at least making a pattern for a bodice like this, you want to measure the widest part of your chest and as a circumference. And you're going to want to make sure you are pretty level the whole way. And I also recommend that you're wearing any undergarments that you would like to wear with this outfit. Wear them when you measure this, because this will tell us like the base measurement for the garment that you want to wear. So you don't want to do this with like a super padded bra if you're not going to wear that padded bra with that blouse. So I'm a little bit low. So just readjust. It's helpful to do this in front of a mirror. Yep, that's pretty close. And then the waist is the skinniest part of your torso. It's not necessarily your hips, right? And again, you're going to want to just make sure that it's level. You don't want to like super suck in or super blow out. Just be like a normal in between breath measurement. Not too tight, not too loose. You don't want it to be crazy tight unless that's the design you want. And then hips. We do the widest part of your hips, not actually where your hip bone is necessarily, right? The widest part around your legs And again, I'm just going to triple check in the mirror here that I'm relatively straight across. Okay. Just so you can see it a little bit better, I brought you a little closer. And from my measurements, I did find that I'm in the 20 to 22 range. And unfortunately, I did not buy the correct size. That's okay. I'm going to show you what to do if you're looking at a pattern that you love and it just doesn't come in the size that you need. What we're going to do is we're going to make a mock-up, and then we're going to just increase it where we need to, just to try to give you a little bit more room. So what I've done is the contents of this are just these two pieces. The first piece is our instructions, and that is my, I guess, last before you sew checklist, because technically, and I'll roll the B-roll now, I did wash and dry my fabric the same way I intend to wash and dry the garment, and I have all of my notions. I have not pressed the fabric yet, but I do want to just go ahead and make the mock-up first so we know exactly what we're doing, and then when we're ready to go, we'll press that. So in case it wrinkles in between then, I only press it one time. So we're on the final step here, which is read the instructions, Google any confusing parts, and write down any additional notes that you may need to know. So the first page here. Now, you may feel a little overwhelmed when you open up these instructions, and that's totally normal. They're kind of vague and honestly overwhelming. The first section up here talks about any pattern markings, how to adjust if we need to lengthen or shorten, or, you know, before cutting, what is unique that we need to know. And then down here, it kind of talks about all the different pieces that you're going to need. So we've got 13 pieces that make up the top for A, B, and C, which A, B, and C are what we're going to make. And you can kind of tell like the things that we won't need. For example, we're not making C, so I won't need number 9, 10, or 11. But I will still need the rest of it, so I will need 10 pieces, really. And then they explain how they suggest that you cut your yard of fabric so that you get the most out of your pieces. And then if you flip it over, they give you the actual sewing directions. And what seam allowances are, that's super important to know. Let's see. So they prefer a fusible interfacing on numbers 12 and 13, which, according to our instructions, are important. So we're gonna make sure we have some of that. I don't have that pulled out. I do have some fusible interfacing though. And they do discuss things like how to gather, what a narrow hem is, how to reinforce, what's a slip stitch, stay stitch, or an understitch. Now these are things I suggest that you Google how to do, even just on YouTube, to see a suggestion before you get started. Because while they do explain it in English, some of it is just not super intuitive. So the first step that I suggest that you do after you have a good understanding of what the instructions are, and I believe these are the same instructions. Ooh, no, there are more additional instructions. Oh Lord, so many more instructions. Yeah, how to finish it. Okay. Nice. And then they have the more in-depth instructions written in Spanish as well. And this is intentionally left blank. So I'm going to go ahead and get cutting out the pattern pieces, and then I'm going to get out my cheapo fabric and make a mock-up. I suggest that every sewer have both sewing scissors and non-sewing scissors. That way you use your sewing scissors on only fabric and you don't use it on anything else. That way they stay sharp as long as possible. Now these used to be my fabric scissors. I even wrote fabric on them so that a certain uncle didn't get into my scissors, but I upgraded a little while ago, so they are now my non-fabric scissors. Now this paper is where we gotta be somewhat careful. This is very easy to tear. We don't want to do that. So we're gonna just start with one piece at a time, fold the rest up, put it in a pile, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. So if you're feeling insecure about your size and you don't want to waste this time when you plan to be a different size in a few months, I would caution against that, because like, I don't know, I hope that I'm not this size, next year, but at the end of the day, like, I want to go live my life and go have fun and go to Disneyland no matter what size I am. So I say just go ahead and make the thing you want to make it fit you the best you can, and then, if your body changes after you've made it, you just tailor it. And honestly, taking things in, super easy. I would plan to do a little bit of short videos on that in the future. And if you're not small enough to fit in the clothes that you've just made, it's just another opportunity to practice your skills and make it another time. It's just all on how you frame what you see, What I'm doing right now is just a rough cutout of the pieces. I'm not trying to get super close. This piece of paper is just too unwieldy, or unwieldy, however you want to say that. So I'm just doing like a rough cut to get all these things cut out. You, again, should be extremely careful when you're playing with this paper. It's extremely easy to tear. So now we have a pile. So now we're going to do a much better cut right on the line, and I'm going to just cut out the maximum size that's printed here, and then we're going to make some adjustments on our mock-up. Okie dokie. So, I think I am ready to start cutting out some fabric here, but I did want to just go over the step that I did here. If you recall, the important steps from the Sewing for Beginners is actually, measuring yourself and comparing yourself to the pattern. Now, ideally, you'd be able to buy the right size for you, but as you buy other patterns, you may find that they just don't have one that is your size. And honestly, you're never going to be the exact same size, or it's very unlikely that you will be the exact same size as any of the sizes in the pattern. So it's actually pretty good practice to try to figure out exactly what differences you are compared to the pattern. And then we can do the slash and spread method and make the pattern for you. So you can see I was a couple inches larger than the largest size in this pattern, and I identified that there were 4 pattern pieces that were directly impacted by the bust, the waist, and the hip difference. So I split the I split the difference here. So we needed to add 4 inches in total to the bust, for example, and we have 4 pieces that would be impacted by that, so I'd want to put an inch on each one of those. However, it's important to know that there's 2 of this one, 1 of this one, and 2 of these two. So really we'll have an inch total on number 4 here, but we're only going to have half an inch on the other 3 because there are 2 pieces that go around the body. And so that's kind of what I did here. For example, this is number 1, so we'd need 1 inch in total. So this is a ½ inch increase here. So that's so far where I'm at. The other pieces here are impacted by having a size difference. However, almost all of them are a very linear increase. So you see here it's the same on this, the same width. You just add a certain amount of length here, depending on your size. And since this would probably put me closer to about 4 sizes bigger than this, I'll just literally take the same difference and just put it right here. So I'm going to get my pieces cut out and then make sure everything looks good. Then we'll start doing the instructions in the pattern. Okay, got it all cut out. I tried not to leave too much of a gap because the seam allowance is built into this pattern. That would be defined in the pattern itself. Usually it's within all the information here. So that is the next step here, which is read the pattern instructions and Google anything that's confusing and write down some notes if you need them. It's a piece of paper. You can write on it. It's legal. So now that I have these cut out, the next step is to mark the wrong side of the fabric so that you know it's wrong. Because honestly, this is the same color on both sides of the fabric. So I would have a really hard time remembering, is this the right side or the wrong side? But also transfer any of these markings from the pattern onto the piece as well. So that's the next step here. And if you've gotten to this point and your fabric is super wrinkly and you did not iron before you cut, now would be an opportune time to iron your pieces before you sew them together. So, all right, movie magic time. Okay, I'm done marking these ones. I was in the middle of marking this one, and I thought it'd be important to mention to everyone that as you are transferring your markings, it is important to realize when it says cut to, if this piece will be mirrored to itself. So if you were to mark both pieces flipped the same way, like for example, if both of them sit this way, they are the same, right? If we were to mark all of them the same way, then when we go to sew things, you're going to be reviewing markings on the front of your piece. And unless you are very good about your seam allowances, you risk seeing the markings on the front. But also, I think it's helpful to always mark mirrored if the pieces will be mirrored, That way you know what is front, what is back, because sometimes the way that some fabrics are, the back of the fabric will be a slightly different color or sheen from the front of the fabric. And what you don't want are pieces that will clash. And you don't want to get all the way there and realize that you cut it wrong or you marked it wrong. So now you got to go recut some more fabric. So just realize how the pieces will be used before you mark them and mark them accordingly. Okay, so at this point, I have the majority of a blouse. The section I'm on now is called the interfacing. This isn't a full lining kind of blouse. Really, they just take the facing pieces and then we just attach them to the front here. So it's a partially lined garment. It's not my favorite kind, but it is faster and it's more efficient for material. And I'll actually be wearing this outside somewhere where it may be warm. So it might be good that it's not fully lined because then it's at least one less layer. But initially I was putting this off because I didn't know how well that was going to fit me with the slash and spread method. But actually I'm pleasantly surprised. So what I'm going to do is do the same slash and spread method on these pieces. This would go across the back and this would be across the front. So instead of doing the math against 4 different pieces, the math will now only be done against 2. So let me walk through that now. Okay, so I have just copied over the size increase that we want to do in inches here. And then I have our 2 pieces labeled and then how many inches we're going to add in the width for the 3 different circumferences that need to change. In parentheses here, I do have it labeled that there are 2 pieces for 12, and then there's 1, but it's on the fold for 13. So because this is on the fold, both of these numbers need to be divided in half for the addition that we're going to add. Because there will be 2 of these pieces, so we don't want a full 2 inches at the top, we want only 1, so then it's on both sides, it's mirrored. So I will go ahead and make up the paper and show you. Okie dokie. So what I've done is I've added ½ an inch here, ½ an inch here for a full inch. That will be twice, so that'll be 2 inches. And then I've done the same thing here where this is just a full inch because it doesn't really matter. It's about the same length. So that'll be another 2 inches. So that'll be 4 inches across the bust. I ended up leaving it the same going down here because the point of this interfacing is to give some structure to where the buttons will be. It's not super influenced by the waist, so I'm just kind of leaving it straight as the original pattern show. So I'm going to get the pieces cut, including interfacing. So we're going to cut 2 fabric and 2 fabric, and then 2 interfacing, 2 interfacing, and then we're going to iron that on, and then we'll get to sewing. Well, that about wraps up the creation of my birthday blouse themed after the Little Mermaid Ariel. I had a great time making this piece. I enjoyed learning how to do a new technique like slash and spread, and I loved being able to show exactly, what tips and tricks I think are very important that are usually missed just in the prepping of your fabric or the prepping before you actually sew. If this kind of stuff is interesting to you, I really would appreciate it if you would, give us a follow on our socials or check out our website and check out the one pager that's available on our website. And if you create anything following those examples and steps, please go ahead and share that with us, tag us. We'd have a great time. I just want to say thank you to Auntie Christine for not only making me some awesome Mickey ears to go with my theme for my birthday trip out to Disney, but also for, in general, just, supporting me through this and getting me to Disney, around Disney, and seeing everything I want to and eat everything that I wanted to. I had a great day, and I hope you did too. All right, well, thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see what we craft together next time. Bye-bye.
We must learn a little bit about the wonderful personality that is you. So, you rule with your heart, and you might say you're as stable as a house of cows. You are like...
Yes!
That's fantastic.